Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. Apologies for the slight break in videos. Things have been a bit rough in real life. Nothing to worry about, but I'm back. On a very cold night, and I've got my hot chocolate. Different brand of hot chocolate this time. It's hot chocolate with coconut. It's all a bit strange. But cheers. So, this past Saturday was our monthly 2K tournament at my local game store, GamesHub. And I wanted to try something a bit different. Not necessarily something that I was likely to win with, although obviously you have that hope, but something a bit different, something a bit more fun. So this particular time, I decided to go with the Vanguard Spearhead detachment, even though I wasn't really playing Phobos stuff. For a kind of one-trick pony idea, it only actually worked one of the 3 games, unfortunately. My list was basically this. Gravis Captain, double power fist, with the blade-driven deep enhancement, which means him and his 6 Boltstorm Aggressor bodyguard could infiltrate, so I could plonk them closer up to the middle of the table or wherever, and do what they need to do a lot quicker than would normally have. Terminator Librarian with 5 Terminators. My usual Neo Volkite and Shield Sword Lieutenant with 5 Hellblasters in a drop pod. I'd given him the Ghost Weave Cloak, so I figure if he ever gets separated from his bodyguards, he can be difficult to shoot, so I can keep him alive a little bit longer. Plus, I had the points. Not a great choice. 4 5-man heavy intercessor squads. I'm nothing if not I will play troop choices, as we are supposed to do. I had a 5-man assault intercessor squad in a Spartan, although they didn't particularly do their job very well. I'm not a big fan of assault intercessors, but I don't normally play them, and I wanted to give them a go. I had a squad of eliminators, so I could sit up and snipe targets off. I had Inceptors, which was the core of my plan. I like Inceptors I think the Assault Bolters are far better than the Plasmas. My idea being I could drop them down on an Oath of the Moment target, reroll everything that wasn't a 6 until I got 6s to get all those sustained hits, wallop something down, and then use I think it's Guerrilla Tactics stratagem for 1 CP to bounce them back in strategic reserve so I could drop them again at another point. Unfortunately, it only worked one of the 3 games. My opponents kept blasting them off the table almost straight away, which is not very fair, not very fun-friendly of them. And lastly, since I had recently picked him up, I had a Vindicare Assassin. A little overcosted, I think, at 150 points for an allied unit, but dagnammit, I wanted to field him, and he did a fairly good job in each game. So that was basically my list. It's nothing special, but I hoped that by infiltrating this big blob of aggressors, I might be able to dominate the centre of the table. I might be able to keep my opponents away slightly, and if needs be somewhere where I can do secondaries. And I had hoped the Inceptors would drop down, kill anything they wanted, and then jump back in again. None of which happened, which is slightly annoying. Now, normally in a tournament, you have a really nice mix of armies. And this was a very, very strange weekend. 8 of us. Okay? There's 1 Orc player. Including myself, there's 2 Space Marines. There's 1 Drukhari. And 4 Craft World Eldari players. 4. Admittedly, one of them was a list borrowed by the store owner, Mr. Julian, because he only has a couple of 1,000-point armies, so he couldn't really use those. But dagnammit, how many, they're like buses around here. You don't see an Eldari for ages and then 4 come along at once. Haven't really seen them played since even outside of the tournaments, since the June update. They seem to have just dropped off the radar, but they were back with a vengeance this weekend. Now, with that in mind, let's jump to round 1, which pitted me against Mr. Phil and his Drukhari and their Sky Splinter Assault detachment. The point of the mission was tipping point and hidden supplies, and primary objective was taken hold. I had played against a variation of his list like the week before, and I had used a variation of mine. I lost that game, and it showed me a couple of weaknesses. I kicked out a couple of units and swapped them over. In this particular game, unfortunately, as much as I did quite well taking out a number of his transports and venoms and things, the sheer number of Dark Lances and Scourges with anti-tank weapons dealing devastating wounds was quite unpleasant. And he's got this phenomenal thing with Lilith and Witches and an Archon with Incubi, where they basically leap out of transport, slaughter their way through everything in close combat, and then jump back in again. And, yeah. Oof is about right. It was a fun game, but it really was a list that I was going to struggle against in every way, unfortunately. Very much close combat, which is one thing that I couldn't deal with very well. And ultimately, there isn't a lot to say. The aggressors were taken down in combat by Incubi, and the Inceptors were pretty much blown off the table as soon as they arrived. And ultimately, at the end of 5 rounds, the Drukhari had won 89-46. That's not a bad for me. I wasn't expecting to get quite so many points because I was struggling to do primaries, and I don't think the secondary is particularly great for me either. Now, to be fair, I will spoil things a little bit. Phil's list actually took the win at the end of the day. Fantastic. Well done, Mr. Phil. And I can see why. It's a very nicely tuned list, and he knows how to play it. Well done. Not a particularly good list for me to face. So round 2, and I get Charles with his battle host Eldari. I had played him a couple of months ago, where I think he was quite new back into the edition. He'd played a good ways back. I think he says something about 6 or 7, something like that. And it was nice to see that he had improved quite a bit. He was still learning the game. Now I think he's really got it down pat. This particular game, let me just find it, was Hammer and Anvil Inspired Leadership, which neither of us took any use of, and Burden of Trust. So it was a good looking down the tables ways. The problem I had with this particular list, as you can probably guess, I got absolutely mullered. Spoilers, Charles won 80-31. So I'd only just pipped my minimum score that I need from each game. The problem with this one was, I think it was the fact that we were so long ways down the table that I couldn't really get very far. He was able to contain me back. And basically this annoying Autark, I think it was. I try to remember what the character was. But he ended up running around on his own, and he was literally, he got up there to, I had the Vindicare on a higher position, so I had a good firing arc. And he managed to get up there, and he was basically kept him in combat for ages. There's me dropping stuff down, falling back with the Vindicare, trying to shoot this guy and failing. And it took me probably 2.5 rounds to actually kill him. But by that point, this was the threat on the table for me, really, because I couldn't just ignore him. I had to deal with it in order to safely hold what I had and be able to press forward. I couldn't leave this one rather strong character running around in my back lines. So really good play by Charles, and kind of put me in a really difficult position. Ultimately, as I say, Charles won that game 80-31. It was well earned for him. Just didn't quite go my way. Lastly, and third round, I get Eldari again. What did I say? There's 4 of them. And this time it was Mr. Julian, our store owner, who had borrowed a list from one of the other players because, as I say, he didn't have 2,000 points in either of the armies that he plays. And when I saw this list, I was like, no. So basically, this was, I think it was Farseer Eldrad. It was 2 Wraith Knights, 2, a unit of Wraith Blades and a unit of Wraith Guard, each with the Wraith Seer, Spirit Seer, I forget what they're called. And I looked at this and I just went, how the hell am I going to touch this? I really thought this was going to be it. I'm not going to get that win that I want, to have one win of the day. Ultimately, the first Wraith Knight went down. The Spartan dropped it to 4 wounds. The Vindicare went, you're not having that, mate. Turbo Penetrate around, blew its head off. The second one got into my lines and took down a number of the aggressors, but not before they took wounds off of it, and the Spartan was then able to just decimate it again. And with those 2 threats gone, I was like, right, now I can start to do something. Both Wraithguard and the Wraith Blade units had these annoying Spirit Wraithseer characters that could bring dead ones back, which I really don't think should be an option for these things. They don't need to have the ability to come back on the table. They're tough and nasty enough as it is. But I really thought I was going to struggle here, and it ended up being just massive weight of firepower, number of dice rolled in order to devastate them. Without the 2 Wraith Knights, which was a good chunk of points, this actually led to me getting my one and only win of the day. I managed to take victory 62-32, which I was actually a little shocked on. I honestly went in not thinking I was going to do very well at all. I think just by sheer luck, I had the list that could deal with the Eldari, with these particular Wraith things, whereas normally I would struggle. Well, Spartan was man of the match, or unit of the match in that particular game. I haven't actually said what the mission was I? This was Dawn of War, Smoke and Mirrors, which I don't think either of us used, and Terraform, which again, we didn't. I think I might have used it once. Ultimately, it's one of those abilities that just nobody really seems to bother with. So at the end of the day, sorry, I apologise. 1 win, 2 losses. I'll take that. I think when I say it was a frustrating day, it was just down to the sheer number of Eldari lists. I don't even remember what was in the other ones. It was just a case of it was a lack of variety in the day. I had expected to possibly face the Orcs, and I think I might have been able to handle the list that Adam brought for that. Or I had Thomas's White Scars as the other Space Marine player, and I have defeated him in the past. He has beaten me. I really thought I was going to get one of them, and that would be the easy win. In the end, it was basically just 3 Assyriani, Eldari, whatever you want to call it, armies. I'd have liked to have played something a bit different in each round, but there you go. That's just what people brought. For some reason, Eldari were the flavour of the month in November for us. It ended up with me, if I just find this now, I came 6th out of 8. I will certainly take that, and I say well done to Mr. Phil for his win. Now I've got to come up with something different for December. I'm really not sure what to take for that one. I think I'm going to have to come up with something. I have to put my brain cells together, both of them, and and see what I can come up with for that particular event. See if I can't come up with something that's going to do me a little bit better. All right, thank you for watching. That was just the report of the tournament from last Saturday. Thank you for watching. Drop your comments or down below. Give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button for me, and I'll see you in the next vid and in the comments. Till then, take care, guys. Good gaming.